Hey, Warren Eckstein. Of all the questions I get asked, the thousands of questions, whether it be on radio, TV, or my internet access, probably the most frustrating for most pet guardians is housebreaking issues. They have so many questions about housebreaking their dogs. As a matter of fact, a lot of dogs wind up at shelters because they're not housebroken. It's so frustrating to people because they make so many errors. So I'd like to spend some time today resolving some of the errors that most people make when they're trying to housebreak their dog. First of all, the most important thing that you can do is make sure the dog is on a good diet, a good healthy diet, and schedule the feedings. Because if you schedule the feedings, you can pretty much determine approximately when the dog has to go. If you're dealing with a puppy, remember when they first wake up, 15 minutes after they eat or after exercise, good indication that they're going to have to go outside as well. So those are just some tips, but let me tell you exactly the problems are. Let's say we have a dog and we're having a lot of difficulty housebreaking him, you're having a lot of frustration, and let's say the dog has an accident in the house. A lot of mistakes take place here. Number one, the first thing people do is, let's say the dog has an accident right here. They'll take the dog over to the accident and say, "Bad dog, what did you do? Fooey, wait till daddy comes home." What are you getting across to the dog? The only thing you're getting across to the dog, number one, is that it's bad to go here. So tomorrow he goes, "Fine, no problem, I'll go here or here." You're not getting the act of going as being wrong. You're only getting the act of going in that spot as being wrong. That's number one. Number two, no pun intended, the other thing you're doing is you're paying a lot of attention to the fact that he had an accident. Dogs crave attention. So the more attention you pay to it, the more the dog's probably going to continue doing it. Number two mistake is when the dog does have an accident, what do people clean up with? Most people run to the cupboard and take whatever's under the cupboard and they clean up with, oh, Mr. Clean, less tall top, or whatever they use. Most of these products contain ammonia. Have you ever changed a baby's diaper? What does it smell like? Ammonia. So by cleaning up with any of these ammoniated products, in reality, you might as well pee on the floor. You're putting down the same odor, enticing the dog right back to the same spot. That's why it's critical to use a really good enzymatic stain and odor remover made specifically for pets. That is really important. So those are some of the things that people have a tendency to make a mistake when they're trying to housebreak their dog. The other thing that's real important to understand is that dogs are not doing it on purpose. They're not having accidents in the house to get you upset. They're not having accidents in the house to make you angry. So it's important to remember when you're trying to housebreak a dog, keep your sanity. Don't get frustrated, because that frustration goes from one end of the leash right down to the other. The other thing that's important in terms of housebreaking is to make sure the dog is good and healthy. If the dog is not good and healthy, of course, if he has loose stool or whatever, that can be indicative of a problem as well. The other thing that people make a mistake with when they're trying to housebreak a dog is they don't know where the accidents took place. How do I know if the dog had an accident upstairs or downstairs? I recommend you go to a pet store or a lighting store, get one of those black lights. You know the black lights all us guys had in the 60s and 70s with Farrah Fawcett? You know what I'm talking about, right? Those black lights at night, if you light those up, they will pick up any urine or poop stains on the carpet. Then you know the areas you got to clean up. All right, that being said, so what do we do if the dog does have an accident? Number one, and this is probably the only time I'll get a little tough with the dog, is if you take the dog after you find the dog has had an accident, and I don't care if it's 5 hours later, 10 hours later, it makes no difference. I want you to take the dog to a different location in the same room. Confine the dog at that point. You can use a leash and a harness and make sure that he has enough room to stand up and lie down, and obviously. Then pick up his mess. If it's urine, just dab a little bit with a paper towel and put it in front of the dog but out of his reach, and leave him there for about 10 minutes. Coming back at the end, saying no, then walking away, no grudges help. What did I just do by moving the dog's mess? Most dogs hate to stay with their own mess. Most dogs aren't going to poop near their bed. Most dogs aren't going to poop near their food. They hate to stay with it. So by moving the dog to a different location in the same room and moving his mess to that location, what we're saying to the dog is, look, it doesn't make any difference where you go. Whenever there's an accident in the house, you're going to have to stay with it. That's as tough as I get, guys. Now, once or twice, that usually does work. However, there are other things you can do as well. Very often, the dog is going to go in areas where you spend the least amount of time. For example, I got a call not too long ago where the dog's peeing on the couch in the living room. So my question was, how often do you guys use the living room? We never use the living room. Therefore, the dog's becoming a little territorial and marking it. So if you have an area where the dog seems more consistently going, my recommendation at that point is, number one, to spend more time with the dog at that location. Put some of his food and treats in that location. Even when you're not there, sees his food, he's not going to want to go there. And the more time you spend with him in that location, the less territorial the dog needs to be. So those are just some important factors to remember when housebreaking. The other thing that's really critical as well is not to overreact. And I know it's frustrating. No one wants to clean up poop or urine first thing in the morning when you come home from work. But the more assertive you get, the more aggressive you get with the dog, the more intimidated the dog's going to be. Remember, take it from me. If a dog is healthy, most dogs can be housebroken 14 to 16 days, as long as people are consistent. But what happens is a lot of people aren't consistent. Now, the same thing goes. Let's take a puppy, for example. If you're dealing with a puppy, as I said, when they first wake up, after they eat, about 15 minutes after exercise is all good times. But you want to regulate their water as well. You want to make sure they get plenty of water, but at certain intervals throughout the day, if that's possible, so you can determine when the dog has to go. And when they do eliminate outside, I want you to jump up, dance. If your neighbors aren't calling people to take you away because you're nuts, you're not giving your dog enough attention at that point. So make sure you do that as well. Make sure he gets a lot of positive attention when he goes outside and not so much negative attention if he does have that occasional accident. It always breaks my heart when I go to shelters, and I've spent many years in shelters where dogs are brought back for such inconsequential reasons as housebreaking or chewing or jumping or barking. All of these behavior problems can be resolved easily. Healthy dog, healthy mind, healthy body, healthy guardian, and we can resolve these issues. Remember, don't let housebreaking get to you. I mean, it's the same frustration for everyone when they start with a new puppy. Now, there's another end of the spectrum as well. What happens if you have an older dog and you adopt a dog? God bless you if you adopted or rescued a dog. You guys are my favorite people in the whole wide world. But sometimes they come and they may be a little older, a year, 2, 3, and they're not totally housebroken. Or they've been overly corrected, and the only time they got attention was for being bad. Therefore, they might as well be bad to get that attention. It takes a little bit more time, but again, the same results are there. Spend more time where the dog has had the accident. Put some of his food or his treats in that area. You can confine him with the mess if he has an accident, only for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, coming back and just saying no. But no grudges held. Yelling, screaming, jumping up and down is not going to make any difference in the world, except make your dog crazy, which ultimately is going to make you crazy. Take my word, follow my advice, and I promise you, in no time at all, you can feel safe walking around your house barefoot. Housebreaking shouldn't be that big a deal. People make it that big a deal because they overreact to it. Don't overreact, and I promise you, it'll work out fine. I'm Warren Eckstein.